What do I want for my birthday? I want to reach my goals, get stronger, faster, maybe travel, have some cake. But most of all, I want to help people overcome or achieve almost anything at any age. And I'm hoping this film will help make that happen. Well, hello and welcome. I'm John Prassas. I'm turning 66, and I'm glad you're here, whether you're 15, 75, or anywhere in between. Now, I'll be sharing the most powerful life lessons and secrets I've gathered over the years as a pro athlete, entrepreneur, pastor, author, family man, friend, and fellow human being. Now, these insights can literally change your life story and help you live an epic life of victory. Now, if you're wondering where exactly I'm coming from, let me show you around. I live in McKinney, Texas, a fast-growing town just north of Dallas, with my wife Susie and our new pup Dolly, now just a year old. We have family all over the country, dressed up or down as needed. Our hometown is right here in LA. I went to school here on the East Coast, but we've been here now for 21 years. I'll tell you how we got here when we talk about seeking possibilities and seizing opportunities in a minute. But first, let's talk about my birthday goals and your goals of every kind right now. It's been said that a goal is a dream with a deadline, and we'll be looking at yours ahead. It's also a fact that if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. This painful truth inspired me to write this book to help us aim at the most essential things to realize our full potential and destiny. We'll explore them together as we go. But first, let's ask, where did this idea of birthday goals come from? For me, it came from this man. His name is Jack LaLanne, and he's known as the godfather of fitness. He opened health clubs, produced TV shows, invented products, and attempted great feats to celebrate his birthdays. At 42, he did 1,000 push-ups in just 23 minutes. And when he turned 70, he towed 70 boats holding 70 people while swimming a mile with his hands cuffed and his legs shackled. It was amazing and inspiring. It's no wonder he's inspired actor Mark Wahlberg to start work on a feature film and documentary about LaLanne, or that he inspired me to train and compete in triathlons when I turned 50 and 60, and again last year at 65. Heck, I even got a medal to prove it. Here are my birthday goals at 66, mostly aiming to lift heavier and produce this video. But now let's talk about your goals, broken into 3 important kinds. First are the big, bold, and often longer-term goals, like run a marathon or write a book or earn a degree or buy a car or home or open a business or visit Hawaii. Big goals need to be dramatic, specific, and have a rock-solid due date. They should captivate your soul, so they literally drag you out of bed every morning with a twinkle in your eye, drawing you forward because you know where you're going. The biggest goal I've ever heard came from President John F. Kennedy back in 1962, when he proclaimed that America would put astronauts on the moon by the end of that decade. You can read his handwritten notes on that speech, knowing his goal would be hard, but understanding the challenge would inspire our best efforts and lead us to a truly epic achievement. Next are everyday goals. And of course, these are the stepping stones to reaching your prize or destination. They need to be clear or specific, realistic, measurable, and desirable, not just should-dos or need-tos imposed by guilt or by others, but eager want-tos or even desperate got-tos. Maybe you walk or run a mile each morning, or you write or study or research for an hour every night. Whatever it is, your daily goal is on your mind and it's on your schedule every day. Now, here's a secret tip for those crazy days that wreck your schedule and make your daily goal impossible. Do something related to your daily goal to keep your momentum going. Even something tiny like walking around the block or to your mailbox, or even just thinking, praying, or imagining yourself doing your task, like a mental repetition. It can still be a victory. And speaking of tiny things, micro goals have become pretty big news lately. These are small but specific tasks that are easy to accomplish, but are clearly aligned with your big moonshot goals and everyday goals. So they move you forward, making progress, which becomes very uplifting emotionally. because even tiny wins release endorphins into our system, making us feel good and stay positive. A micro goal could be putting your running shoes by your bed each night so you run the next morning, or putting your book, phone, or device on your pillow each evening to make sure you read, study, edit, research, or whatever you want to do before you conk out each night. Micro goals are like little worker ants that can help you move mountains. So now let's explore why my sharing this video with you is so timely this year while I'm turning 66. It's because I'm celebrating the 50-year anniversary of my worst day ever, and the very best lessons and secrets I've got for you today. Now, I didn't really connect those dots when I first thought about making this film. I just thought 66 was a cool number and a great age to, hit some goals and talk about life. It was only later that I did the math and realized that, wow, 66 minus 50 years equals 16, which is exactly when everything happened. It was Halloween night. I was barely 16. I was in a high-speed car chase with police, driving my mother's car like a bat out of hell, complete with sirens blaring and lights flashing as trick-or-treaters cleared the streets as I zoomed past and went screeching around neighborhood corners, trying to ditch my pursuers. Earlier that afternoon, I had played a football game, then celebrated with friends, and we were just heading over to school for a big dance intended to keep us off the streets and out of trouble that night. I was especially eager to meet up with my brand new girlfriend, our school's most captivating cheerleader. So when I pulled to a stop sign a few blocks away, I revved my engine and burned a little rubber towards the dance, but then noticed up a side street a police car hiding, then lighting up and pulling out. And right then and there, the chase was on. Now, unfortunately, that chase ended about a half a mile away when I crashed into a house. So they hauled me into jail that night. I was kicked off the football team the next day, along with my buddies, and never did quite make it to that dance. Thankfully, no one got hurt, but I was devastated. I had disappointed everyone and ruined my life before it even started. I tried to apologize, starting with the people whose house I hit, but the damage was done. Even my mother couldn't look at me without shaking her head. Yeah, I was just a dumb jock with no direction. Any vague goal I had of maybe playing college football looked like a pipe dream. I had no team. I had no honors or awards coming to attract scouts to my all-important junior season, but I did have a bad reputation now, and heck, I'd probably lose my hot new girlfriend too. I was now in danger of being a loser for life, a hopeless failure. I felt doomed and defeated. Would I ever achieve or amount to anything? Then somewhere under that cloud of despair, I caught a glimmer of hope. Could something good somehow come from my disaster? Could I somehow overcome this massive setback? Years later, I spoke about my experience with a longtime airline pilot and friend, and he told me something profound. He explained how the Chinese symbol for crisis includes two others, one for danger, the other for opportunity, because crisis offers both. How we respond determines everything. Well, that's exactly what I sensed, or at least hoped for, in my darkest hour. It's also what I've shared with people in the years since when I consult folks who are in financial distress or mentor high school students when they're in serious trouble. I tell them the danger is real and it must be addressed, but that a painful crisis can become a priceless gift. Because it can wake you up, get your attention, force you to reflect, and send you in a better direction looking for opportunity instead of sleepwalking like so many. I've had to prove this myself through great recessions and pandemics, terrorist attacks, busted deals, lost jobs, and family loss. So I know it's real. Whatever the crisis, we've got to address the danger and then seek and seize the best possible opportunity. In my book, Debt-Free ASAP, I share a 3-step protocol that seems to help in any kind of crisis. The steps are, number 1, assess your situation. Don't ignore it, deny it, hide it, or delay addressing it. Take a good look at everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Number 2, know and review your options. Explore, research, ask around, get creative, dig for answers, then decide what fits you and your situation. By the way, here's an article I wrote on the subject you can get at the address below. Number 3, create a plan plan with whatever support you need to succeed. Get a coach, find a mentor, ask a friend or family member with knowledge or experience in your area of need. I believe that when you're on a mission and have a plan, you naturally attract people who want to help. We will talk more about these steps, but first, let me tell you how my epic life crisis recovery began. My recovery began when I started digging for some sense of identity, direction, or inspiration. Like a coal miner with a pickaxe or a gold digger with a chisel, I had to explore where I came from, where I wanted to go, and whether I had what it took to get there. I had to look at my history, dreams, and DNA. Without knowing it at the time, I was taking that first step to assess my situation. I recognized the danger, but was now looking for inspirational people, events, clues, and connections. I started where my history began, with my family. And yeah, that's me riding the Bronco on the right. They had hoped for a girl, but they got themselves a troublemaking little boy instead. So sorry, Mom. I took to sports and I took them seriously and thankfully had lots of support. I thought about my grandfather and namesake, John Prassas, who came to Chicago as a poor Greek immigrant, where he hustled flowers and fruit on busy street corners with his brothers, with a work ethic that maybe I could adopt for myself. They later became successful commercial builders, only to lose everything in the Great Depression. But remarkably, my grandpa recovered well enough to live in this historic mansion overlooking Lake Michigan. So maybe I could recover too. I also learned that my middle name, Nicholas, means overcomer and victory for the people in the ancient Greek. And that meant victory was literally my middle name. Speaking of victories, I thought about my undefeated 7th grade team winning a championship on cable TV and some other highlights, like when I stopped a beach bully terrorizing a much smaller friend of ours in junior lifeguards, then sent him home with a bloody nose when he attacked me. Pretty sure I won that summer's MVP award because of it. I also thought about how studious my family was. My dad, an aerospace engineer. My mother, who put herself through college in just 3 years. And my brothers, both straight A students at top-ranked colleges. So maybe I could try harder in school. So reviewing my history gave me a much bigger picture and a big boost of encouragement. Now I needed to look at my dreams. When it comes to dreams, the great Walt Disney once said, all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. So why do you think he spoke of courage rather than faith or inspiration? I think I learned why as I started digging around for my dreams and considered the monumental dreams of others. Like Martin Luther King Jr. and his I Have a Dream speech that we still hear echoing from that historic day back in 1963. I believe Disney knew that dreams can be lonely, scary, costly, and even dangerous. After all, his first cartoon production company failed and it cost him dearly. So he knew courage was required to chase a dream. At first, I wasn't even sure I had a dream. Like most people, my dream was buried, and mine deeper than most for good reason. My dream was laughable and impossible to me, let alone to anyone else I might share it with. But I'm pretty sure I never did put it out there into the light. Because dreams, well, they can inspire, but they can also expose you to ridicule or failure. They can also make other people jealous, feel threatened, or left behind. But I had a dream, as real as the freckles on my face. I wanted to play pro football, just like my heroes, on TV in big stadiums with big crowds and just the best athletes in the world, traveling and being paid to do what you love. I just thought it was the most amazing thing in the world. So there it was, and now I was in trouble. Why? Because when you recognize a dream, when you stare it in the face and embrace it, you basically become accountable to it. And dreams are demanding. A real dream demands your time, attention, loyalty, and intensity to the point of fulfillment or failure. This is why we ignore, bury, or quit on our dreams so often and so easily. So I started making excuses and backpedaling myself to get off the hook. After all, I didn't even have a team, let alone a promise to ever play again. Plus, I was way too skinny for college ball, let alone pro. And who could forget the leg braces I wore to bed as a toddler, and they never did get my legs straightened out quite right? Clearly, I would need to deal with my dream. I would also need to look at my natural gifts, talents, abilities, interests, aptitudes, attributes, what I now call our DNA, to see where they might lead me. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? A firstborn, middle, or youngest child? Practical or conceptual? A dreamer or a doer? A leader, team player, or a loner? Well, thankfully, there are no wrong answers to these questions. We all have unique interests, abilities, attributes, and preferences. These are the things that make us one-of-a-kind people. And we don't choose these things. They all come naturally. But don't take this DNA stuff for granted, because our personality traits, talents, and family dynamics are powerful factors to assess and harness. Let's say you like to sing and you're pretty good. Do you have superstar talent that can touch the world, or karaoke bar talent that can entertain your friends? Or is your talent somewhere in between? Your assessment will determine your approach. Do you have the advantage of family support? Like Taylor Swift, whose family picked up and moved to Nashville to help her budding career as a teenager. Or others born into the family business, like Michael Jackson and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Or like Kobe Bryant and Steph Curry, who followed their fathers into the pros. Your hometown origin story can play a vital role too, like Steve Jobs, growing up in Silicon Valley, where at the age of 12, he famously called the founder of Hewlett-Packard just across town in search of computer parts, only to land a part-time job and a top industry contact. Now, in the middle of my life crisis, of course, I didn't know all this. I was just searching for whatever I could use to turn things around. So I took a quick inventory. My English teacher sometimes said I had talent, and I did always like writing. I naturally liked to lead, speak, and inspire others too when I could. I felt like a creator or a designer, but wasn't sure how to channel that. And I was naturally ambitious with something to prove, fairly typical for youngest siblings. My big brothers helped me a lot and they toughened me up, but I was always gunning to catch or surpass them if I could. And best of all, I had a knack for making big hits or splash plays on the football field, a knack that got me promoted to the varsity team as just a skinny 15-year-old sophomore the year before, and earned me the nickname Super Soft. Yeah, I would need to maximize that ability if I ever got to play again. So now it was time to take my DNA and make something happen. Today I write and talk about personal convergence, but at 16, I didn't know what to call it. I just decided to aim every part of myself at the same target. I had assessed my situation, reviewed my options, and determined a plan. I would hit the books like never before. This meant sitting up front in class, doing homework every night, and even asking for help. I would hit my training with extra workouts, extra protein, uphill runs, stairs, and extra sprints, sometimes under the stars at night, out on the field when no one was watching. I would lead with good vibes and real passion in every setting. I started reading inspirational classics like this book and others to train my mind and add fuel to my fire. My goals were simple: get good grades, get back on the team, be a good leader, get recruited, and hopefully even keep my girlfriend. So how did things work out? Well, I found out about a year later in downtown Los Angeles. That's where I was invited to a luncheon in the executive dining room in one of the tallest buildings. It was hosted by Harvard University to honor and recruit LA's top student athletes like me and the small, soft-spoken dude sitting next to me, who would immediately set records at Stanford and then play 11 years in the NFL. His name was Darren Nelson. Meanwhile, that year's Ivy League football champion, Brown University, had just sent their head coach out to visit me and two teammates, had another coach calling me every week, and they were flying me out to visit their campus in a month. So yes, I had raised my GPA, gotten bigger, stronger, faster, been voted team captain and key club president, earned major honors, and got to the playoffs. Even got the cute cheerleader to stick around. So how did I go from the outhouse to the penthouse so quickly? I wondered the same thing as I stood there looking at the Hollywood sign in one direction and the Pacific Ocean in another. I just felt like my history, dreams, and DNA were converging like three rivers into one. Or like I would later learn about nuclear fusion, where key elements collide, producing crazy amounts of energy and heat. Like the sun, which reaches 27 million degrees at its core, all from nuclear fusion, now considered the most powerful force in the universe. So was it possible for us to harness these same dynamics in our lives? I would keep taking notes and keep trying to harness the power, but now with a good reputation opening new doors of opportunity. The first was meeting Kermit Washington, a 6'8", 250-pound power forward who lived near our school and invited me to train with him that spring and summer, saying he had heard about my story. His positive attitude, good humor, and incredible work ethic were contagious, and his friendship made my dream seem possible. The second was landing a rare job at Marineland of the Pacific, ushering the Orky and Corky killer whale shows, where I had lots of free time and secretly played tag with Corky, the fun-loving female between shows, as I ran around their tank, tapping windows for her to find me, and then met her up top. I hated leaving her and would always love orcas, but it was time to go to college. I chose to attend Brown University because of their great academics, football program, and super cool students, like this guy, who sat next to me in a class where we became friends and talked history, life, and sports, whether my football or his new adventure playing rugby. John was one of my all-time favorites. Open, always curious about other people, and truly humble. He knew he was special, but he also knew he had nothing to do with it. My football teammates, who came from all over the country, were awesome too. My linebacking buddy John Woodring would go on to play for the New York Jets, our tight end Steve Jordan would become an all-pro with the Minnesota Vikings, and our quarterback Mark Whipple would win a Super Bowl coaching for the Pittsburgh Steelers and a national championship head coaching at UMass. I burst onto the scene as a sophomore with an interception return for a touchdown against Cornell that made some national highlight shows. Thanks to this book, I had visualized that play repeatedly on the long bus ride up to Ithaca, New York the day before our game. One sports writer heard my story and wrote about the interception I saw coming the next day. I turned some more heads as a senior with 100-plus tackles and 11 quarterback sacks as a blitzing inside linebacker, which earned me some attention from pro scouts and landed me in the Brown Sports Hall of Fame and our school's all-time football team a number of years later. Here's my picture back then, and yeah, that's some serious Magnum PI style going on right there, back when I had a lot more hair. The most amazing story, though, was about my good friend Brad Blank. He's the smaller guy in this old photo. He became the youngest agent in pro football history when he negotiated contracts for me and my two best friends when he was just a college junior after the 1981 NFL draft. Here is Brad today, and here are his stats from working 40 plus years negotiating more than 1,000 contracts. And yeah, that's a B as in billion there on the left. I tell the whole story in my book, Hit Your Bullseye, but this experience was a massive case of personal convergence for Brad, as key elements of his unique history, dreams, and DNA converged to create a historic opportunity, which he bravely seized despite all the odds. When contacted later, all three general managers couldn't believe they had done deals with a 20-year-old kid in a messy dorm room wearing jeans and a t-shirt. But thankfully, our dreams were alive, and mine would take me to Calgary in Canada. Now would come the hard part. It's one thing to have a contract and some bonus money, but it's another thing to make a pro football team. Every year, more than 1 million kids play high school football, and over 100,000 play some level of college ball. But only 2,000 can play pro ball in the NFL and CFL combined. Veteran players have experience, they know the system and the coaches. Plus, they are fighting to keep their spots and feed their families. So very few rookies or free agents make new teams each year. And in the CFL, it's tough because they limit the number of Americans, which means you have to win a starting position or you are going home. If there's one lesson I've learned, it's that a good first impression makes a lasting impression, just like our mothers used to tell us, especially when decision makers are sorting through talented people in search of star power or potential. So you've got to stand out or make a splash, if at all possible, as soon as possible. I felt the intense pressure of that fact right before my first preseason game in our home stadium, as I got ready for the opening kickoff, almost hyperventilating as the ball was kicked and I sprinted downfield, slipping past the blocker assigned to slow me down, focused on the return man who dropped the ball near his goal line, then nervously grabbed it and started upfield, just as I arrived like a Mack truck smashing a Mini Cooper, with an impact that hushed the crowd and echoed in the stadium right before the fans roared their approval. So I made a few more splash plays that evening, and afterwards a reporter asked whether I thought I made the team, which he seemed to think. I said, look, I don't know, but I'll tell you this, I will do whatever it takes, including tape ankles and carry water bottles if I have to. That was his lead story the next morning. Well, that next week, the coaches took me along to a big fan appreciation luncheon, and the veterans started treating me like I was a made man in the mafia. It looked like I would be the starting middle linebacker that season, in no small part because of a first impression. I wasn't playing in the NFL, but I was playing pro ball on TV in nice stadiums against some amazing players, including Hall of Fame quarterback Warren Moon and Super Bowl quarterback Vince Ferragamo, who left the LA Rams to play for Montreal, where he was now throwing to Billy White Shoes Johnson, the man who invented touchdown celebrations in the NFL. After that season, I headed home to marry the cheerleader and live at the beach, where she worked part-time and I trained and studied for a real estate license I hope to use someday. We already loved cruising nice neighborhoods and looking at properties, something we started doing on our dates way back in high school. But soon enough, it was back to Calgary, where we found an apartment overlooking the stadium and then got traded to the beautiful city of Montreal, where I would play in their world-famous Olympic Stadium and once again arrive with a bang. My first impression game was good enough to secure my spot and demand a new contract negotiated by my man, Brad Blank. The team was desperate to replace their last middle linebacker, the former #1 pick of the entire NFL draft 2 years earlier. He had chosen Montreal over the Buffalo Bills, but just returned to the NFL. So they had to say yes. That season was good and bad. Good because our games were shown on American TV during the NFL players' strike of 1982, and because I did a couple of post-game interviews as the defensive player of the game. Bad part was we lost them both and most of the rest. When my third season arrived the next year, I got sick. Missed most of camp and got released. But then I received 2 NFL contract offers, one from the Super Bowl champion Washington Redskins. Ha! My dream had led me to a mountaintop, so I trained to recover and got ready to go. Unfortunately, things didn't go well. Training camp was insanely hot and humid. My dorm room AC didn't work, and I just didn't make my usual first impression. There was only one new player who really shined, and that was this guy, future Hall of Famer Darryl Green, with his world-class smile and his world-class speed. As I flew home after getting cut, I felt strangely relieved, proud, and even excited about my new interests and opportunities ahead. I had realized my childhood dream well enough to move on. I now had a Hollywood agent pitching a screenplay I had written and a billion-dollar concept taking shape in my mind as a possible business venture ahead. It was time again to assess my situation, review my options, and create a plan. So here's what happened next. With the 1980s video boom in full swing, video store lines were a long and irritating fact of life. So I formed a team, found an investor, and introduced a video delivery service for people working in downtown LA office buildings. We called it VIP Video Express. Our service was popular, but expensive to run and almost impossible to manage, with demand constantly spiking for new releases before covering costs. Without deep pockets to adjust for the long haul, we had to cut our losses and move on. Ironically, about 10 years later, a home delivery DVD service called Netflix came along, then soon offered online ordering and video streaming, and the rest is history. This is one of their main offices today, just 30 minutes from downtown LA. As I assessed this situation, I learned, or maybe relearned, a few lessons. Yes, timing is everything. Whether you're sharing a joke or starting a business, you've got to read the room or the market and make sure you're not too early or too late or missing in some other way. Yes, expertise and money matters. We did plenty of research, had smart people crunching numbers with a clever concept, but we didn't have an experienced operator or deep enough pockets to survive and grow. Yes, make sure the it is a fit. In this case, creating a new business model or marketing concept was a fit, but running an actual retail delivery service was not, and I should have known better. But even so, I know it can be tough to pick one good fit over another. Like when I had to pass on an ABC training program for potential broadcasters to go play pro ball, or later declined famous acting coach Vince Chase's enthusiastic offer to comp my classes and make me a star after I came a couple times with a friend. With my interests, my commitments, and my overall life trajectory, I just knew acting wasn't my best fit. Then, distractions can be deadly. At one point in this process, a music group asked if I could produce their music video. I couldn't resist, so I gathered a team of friends in the business, wrote a script, found locations, recruited talent, and made it happen. But it stole my time and attention and almost wiped me out, burning the candle at both ends. And finally, we must embrace our seasons. If it's winter, you don't jump in the lake, you bundle up by the fire. Same goes for life. If you're having a baby, which I now learn that we were, you don't pursue risky ventures. You find the most stable situation you can with a good medical plan if possible. For me, this meant landing a job at Garrett Corporation headquarters, a big company best known for these metal detectors we all just know and love. And for turbochargers that make our cars go faster, which we really do love. They also made jet engines and other products that I helped promote at trade and air shows as part of a special marketing team. So it was a pretty good fit for me, and the insurance was super helpful for having our first child. Well, little did I know, the biggest convergence of my life was right around the corner. It started with my hometown friend Andy Bark showing me this and asking if I thought we could do something similar for California. Heck yeah, we can, I told him, but there were lots of questions we'd have to answer to convince an investor, let alone be successful. Thankfully, he had someone in mind, and I could start building a business plan for us to research and present if we could make sure to match our current incomes if we got a green light, since I had a new baby to support and a new fixer-upper home with a mortgage to pay. So we got our green light and began our adventure, which was another obvious case of convergence, given our backgrounds and interests, especially for my partner, whose contacts in the worlds of sport and entertainment were already ridiculous and would keep expanding through our platform. Our goal was to be bigger and better than anything similar, with 100,000 copies delivered free in bundles to over 1,000 high school, college, and pro teams, with advertisers and a few paid subscribers footing the bill. Nike founder Phil Knight was one of our first subscribers, and I still remember the day he called to check us out. He would become a massive sponsor, supporter, and partner in numerous programs touching lives through nationwide camps and competitions for over 20 years, and they continue today. As we grew, we went with national partners and covered all sports, winning Emmys for TV work with Fox Sports, producing TV spots or special programs for clients of every kind, including some as they just got started. Of all the amazing people I met, interviewed, or worked with, Troy Aikman at UCLA was my most memorable interview. He was built like a linebacker with a no-nonsense demeanor straight off the Oklahoma ranch he came from, but with the appearance and name of a Hollywood leading man, all with a subtle Orange County beach vibe still lurking from his years living there as a kid. The combination, along with his talent, looked like a big-time case of personal convergence to me, so it's been fun to watch his path unfold since then. After several years building the company, I was forced to leave after clashing with our financial partner over national expansion, which I had proposed. It did allow me to help another friend launch this real estate publication. But then, years later, with the investor gone, I was able to return and help launch a rapid growth phase that included these new offices here, just a mile or so from the ocean. As it happened, I would be forced out again a few years later by the publicly traded company that bought us right before 9/11. Well, after the attack, the markets cooled, revenues dropped, and they started cutting costs, beginning with me. This would lead to our seemingly miraculous move to Texas. After a phone call in the night, completely out of the blue, changed everything. I was driving home from Bakersfield in total darkness in the middle of nowhere, disappointed after meeting a friend about a possible job that just wasn't going to fit. And I was facing a Christmas with literally no presents under the tree for my family. That's when a call came through from my friend Dan Frank in Dallas, asking if I'd consider helping him build his small but innovative real estate firm into something special. I would be a partner, I would head up marketing, get a relocation bonus, and could start on day one of 2004. And he would fly me and Susie out to discuss everything in a couple of days if we were open to it. Yes, wow is the word. Moving would be a risk, a monumental change, and a radical step of faith at the age of 44. And yes, I would probably live in a spare bedroom at my friend's house before getting a place and moving my family out just to make sure I could tackle real estate. But remember when I mentioned seeking possibilities and seizing opportunities at my front door earlier? Well, it took possibility thinking and bold action to make that move, and for me to secure and buy our home through a creative deal with the owner. And we built the company in creative ways as well. So when the Wall Street Journal rankings came out 2 years later, we were the #1 sales team in Texas, #2 in the US, after growing our group 7-fold and creating special programs for builders, buyers, sellers, investors, disasters and corporate relocations. I was even named one of D Magazine's top real estate dudes in Dallas. Then, a couple years later, the Great Recession of 2008 destroyed the market and killed our company. I hustled to open my own small brokerage firm, and I worked with remodeling contractors since I knew homeowners would now keep and improve their homes instead of buy new ones. And now I could offer those services to my clients and friends and to run our own projects like this one, or this one, among others. So, enough about me and my story. Obviously, I'm doing my thing. Let's make sure you are doing yours. I've got 3 things to help. First is this free 2-page summary you can read or request at hityourbullseye.com. Or you can order this quick read 33-page book on Amazon Kindle. Or just grab the Bullseye book I've already mentioned as advertised over Times Square last year on New Year's Eve. So now let's wrap it up with a final look at you and your epic life of victory. So what is an epic life of victory? Let's check it out. You know, I almost hesitate to even use the word epic because it's so overused. You know, we're hearing things like, yo, dude, those tacos were epic. Well, at the risk of sounding like the father character in the movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, I will tell you the word comes from the ancient Greek word epikos, and it means a long poem or song narrating the deeds and adventures of heroic or legendary figures, or the history of a nation. The Iliad and the Odyssey are the best known epics, but I believe we're all invited to live as heroic figures in our own epic life stories. This is why I talk about victory more than, success these days, because victory is a bit more dynamic and gritty. It speaks to battling and overcoming obstacles and opposition on your journey, not just arriving at success. This goes back to my birthday goal to help people overcome or achieve almost anything, because epic journeys are filled with obstacles and achievements. We need to keep this in mind as we cultivate a victorious outlook. And we can actually reinforce this mindset physically. How? Researchers have found that even our facial expressions and our body language, our physical posture, whether, slumped and kind of defeated or upright and alert, these things can send signals and release those endorphins again into our system. And they affect our emotions and consequently our chances of victory. And nothing speaks the language of victory better than raising your arms like your team just scored a winning touchdown. And we know that celebrating even small victories can make a big difference. So while your arms are still up, let me add a spiritual note about my greatest victory, which I never sought, didn't earn or deserve, and actually resisted for quite some time. Here's a hint. Yeah, I laughed when I saw this the other day because I never liked religion and I hated going to church as a kid. I thought it was boring as you know what. It also kept me from surfing with my friends on Sunday mornings or watching NFL games that start early on the West Coast. So at my church, I needed cheat sheet notes under the table just to pass my confirmation class when I was 12. Then I met some powerful believers while playing pro football. And these teammates, man, they rocked my world. Why? It was because they had a different spirit. These guys were strong, fierce competitors, and yet they had this strange degree of generosity, sincerity. They were pure-hearted, and they had a light about them that no one can fake or manufacture. And it was a light that I knew I did not have. Well, suddenly, my wife and I start running into these people everywhere. We call them Jesus people. And sometimes we wondered whether they were like aliens from another world. One day during our first football off-season, when we lived at the beach back home after our wedding, we decided to drive up into the mountains overlooking LA for a romantic picnic. We parked by the road miles away from anything and hiked out into a field full of tall grass, trees, and wildflowers, looking for the best view, when a teenage girl suddenly appeared out of nowhere across the field, coming our way. We grumbled about this intruder, but we greeted her nicely as we passed her by and continued. So a moment later, she calls back to us and turns and she walks our way and arrives, and she's kind of blushing and a little nervous. And she said, I've never done this before, but I think God wants you to know that Jesus loves you. We say, okay, thank you. Talked with her for a sec, and then we went on our way. And so we're moving on ahead, and we suddenly stop, look at each other, and say, "What the heck was that?" Well, you know, strangely enough, that would not be the last unusual encounter or divine appointment that came our way. We started to believe that the grace of God was kind of hot on our heels. We finally came to accept that Jesus loved us enough to die for us, and that the same power that raised him from the grave could give us a new life of peace, love, and victory over every sin we committed or suffered, and even over the power of death. 5 years later, I took a break from business to attend Fuller Seminary in Pasadena, California, where a video I produced led to meeting Leighton Ford, brother-in-law of global evangelist Billy Graham, and his right-hand man, fellow speaker, and founder of the Arrow Leadership Program, mentoring young leaders around the world, including me. Filled with inspiration, we led church services in a Redondo Beach nightclub facility, served, sang, and prayed with the homeless, and fostered an abandoned drug baby, saw him healed, and later adopted. It was all about the love of Jesus. Since then, I've written one book about God's amazing grace, one about his supernatural spirit, and another that's coming soon. That's all I got, just the ultimate victory and where to find it. So we started way out west at Cannon Beach, Oregon, and we've come all the way here to the eastern tip of Long Island, New York. We have literally gone coast to coast and covered a lot of territory on our epic quest together. Now, thankfully, I've hit some goals, I've celebrated my birthday, and I've been able to share this video with you. So now it's time for new goals and fresh vision for me, and hopefully for you as well. So are you ready? Are you ready to harness the power of your history, your dreams, and your DNA to clarify your vision, to set your course and seek God's amazing grace so you can fulfill it? Well, that is what I care about. So please keep me posted, and I will do the same right here if you subscribe. And please give this thing a like and share it with the people you care about if you can. So until next time, it's goodbye, God bless you, and may you be victorious in all that you do. Come on now, let's go.